1913, Carl Jung locked himself in his study. For 7 years, he documented something terrifying, something that would change psychology forever. He called it the confrontation with the unconscious. But it was more than that. It was a descent into the darkest chambers of the human psyche. And what he found there, most people will never be ready to hear. Jung discovered that the mind isn't just yours. It's a battleground between forces you don't control, between voices you didn't invite, between versions of yourself fighting for dominance. And he learned something else, something he whispered only to his closest students. That silence isn't just golden, it's survival. Because every word you speak releases energy, energy that others can see, energy that makes you vulnerable, energy that invites interference. Jung wrote in his private journals, "The tongue is the enemy of the soul." He wasn't being poetic, he was being tactical. Tonight, we reveal what Jung actually taught about silence, about organization, about the invisible war happening inside your mind right now. 10 rules, 10 principles that most people will never follow. Not because they're difficult, but because they require something most people don't have: the courage to face what's hidden. This is the Hidden Codex, where ancient wisdom meets modern power. Carl Jung, Swiss psychiatrist, student of Freud, explorer of the unconscious. But Jung went further than Freud, further than anyone before him. He didn't just study the mind, he entered it. He descended into layers of consciousness that science said didn't exist. And he mapped what he found: archetypes, the shadow, the anima, the self, forces older than civilization, patterns embedded in human DNA. But here's what they don't teach you. Jung's work wasn't just theoretical, it was practical, operational. He developed specific protocols, rules for psychological warfare, rules for organizing your inner world before the chaos organized you. Most of these rules he never published. He kept them in private lectures, in letters to patients, in journal entries marked not for publication. Until now. Before we go deeper, if you sense there's more to reality than what you've been told, if you're ready to see what most people refuse to see, subscribe to the Hidden Codex. Turn on notifications, because what comes next cannot be unlearned. Let's continue. Jung identified something he called psychic energy, not metaphorical, actual energy, libido, life force, the fuel that powers consciousness itself. And he discovered something disturbing about how it moves. Every intention you hold creates a charge. Every plan you make generates a field. And when you speak about it, you discharge that energy prematurely. It scatters, dissipates, becomes vulnerable to what Jung called collective interference. The collective unconscious isn't passive, it's active, it listens, it responds. And when you broadcast your intentions, it reacts. Sometimes by supporting you, often by sabotaging you. Jung wrote to a patient in 1932, "Never announce what you intend to become. The announcement dissipates the becoming." He wasn't talking about modesty. He was talking about energy conservation. In practical terms, here's what this means. Let's say you decide to transform your life. New career, new body, new identity. Most people do this. They announce it, social media, friends, family. I'm starting a business, I'm getting in shape, I'm changing everything. And what happens? Opinions flood in, doubts arise, energy drains. 6 months later, nothing changed. But if you understand Jung's first rule, you stay silent. You work in darkness. You let the transformation happen without commentary. And here's what Jung discovered. When you keep your intentions silent, the psychic energy compounds. It doesn't leak. It accumulates. It intensifies. Until one day, you emerge. Not with promises, with proof. Jung called this incubation, the alchemical process, where transformation happens in the sealed vessel of silence. The first rule, organize your intentions in silence. Never announce what you're becoming. But Jung went deeper. He identified a specific type of person, a psychological predator, someone who feeds on unrealized potential. He never named them directly, but he described them in dreams, in case studies, in cryptic warnings to patients. People who seem supportive, who ask lots of questions, who want to know your plans, your dreams, your secrets. But something's off. Their interest feels extractive, like they're not celebrating you. They're consuming you. Jung wrote, "Beware those who are too curious about your inner world. They're not trying to understand you. They're trying to possess you. This is the second rule, and it's brutal, because it means you have to evaluate everyone around you, not by what they say, but by how you feel after talking to them. Energized or drained, inspired or diminished, clear or confused. Jung believed some people are psychological vampires, not intentionally malicious, but structurally parasitic. They lack access to their own inner world, so they feed on yours. And the way they feed? By getting you to talk, to share, to reveal. The more you tell them, the more they take, until you're empty, and they're full. The second rule, identify the energy thieves, and guard your inner world from them, ruthlessly. Now here's where it gets dark. Jung discovered something about organization itself, something that contradicts everything productivity culture tells you. He found that excessive organization is a defense mechanism against the unconscious. People who overschedule, who plan every minute, who need everything controlled, they're not disciplined. They're terrified. Terrified of what? Of space, of silence, of the thoughts that emerge when there's nothing to do. Jung wrote in 1920, "The neurotic builds a fortress of routine, not to protect himself from the world, but to protect himself from himself." Think about it. How many people do you know who can't sit still? Who always need noise, activity, distraction, who fill every moment with tasks, with content, with anything, to avoid being alone with their own mind? Jung saw this as a red flag, a symptom of a psyche at war with itself. Because here's the thing, the unconscious doesn't care about your schedule. It doesn't respect your plans. It erupts in dreams, in slips of the tongue, in sudden, inexplicable emotions. And the more you suppress it with organization, the more violently it returns. Jung's third rule, create space for chaos, deliberately, regularly, let the unconscious speak. How? Jung practiced what he called active imagination, sitting in silence, without agenda, letting images arise, letting voices speak, letting the shadow show its face. Most people can't do this. They try for 5 minutes and panic, because what emerges isn't pleasant. It's disturbing, angry, shameful, dark. But Jung insisted, that which you do not make conscious will direct your life, and you will call it fate. In modern terms, this means, if you don't schedule time for inner work, your inner world will sabotage your outer work. You'll self-sabotage, procrastinate, get sick, start conflicts, all because the unconscious is screaming for attention. The third rule, don't just organize your external life. Organize time for the internal, for the chaotic, for the shadow. Jung identified something else, a pattern he saw in his patients. The most successful ones, the ones who actually transformed. They all did one thing. They kept journals, but not the kind you're thinking. Not gratitude journals, not productivity trackers, not affirmations. Jung had them record dreams, emotions, irrational thoughts, the things that didn't make sense. He called it dream work. But it was more than that. It was creating a dialogue with the parts of yourself you've been ignoring. Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The journal isn't for memories. It's for making contact with the shadow, with the anima, with the archetypes trying to speak. And here's what Jung discovered. When you write down a dream, you're not just remembering it. You're integrating it. You're bringing unconscious material into conscious awareness. And that changes everything, because the unconscious loses power when it's seen. The fourth rule, keep a shadow journal. Record what emerges in silence. Make the invisible visible. But Jung warned about something. He said most people fail at inner work because they try to do it alone. Not because they need a therapist, but because the ego is a terrible guide. The ego wants comfort. It wants to stay the same. It will lie to you. It will distort what you see. It will protect you from the very truth you need. Jung wrote, "The ego is not the master of the house. It's the servant who thinks he's the master." So what's the solution? Jung said you need what he called the objective observer. Someone who can see what you can't, who can call out your blind spots, your patterns, your self-deception. Not a friend, not family. They're too invested. They want you to stay who you are. Jung meant someone outside the system, a mentor, a guide, someone who's done the work themselves. In ancient traditions, this was the guru, the teacher, the one who's walked the path. In Jungian terms, it's the analyst, the one trained to see the unconscious at play. The fifth rule, don't walk the path alone. Find someone who can see what you can't. Now we enter the most dangerous territory. The thing Jung discovered, that got him labeled as mystical, as unscientific, as dangerous. Jung believed that psychological organization isn't just internal, it's spiritual. He believed there are forces, entities, archetypes that exist independent of individual minds, in what he called the collective unconscious. And these forces, they want something from you. They want to be integrated, to be expressed, to be lived. And if you don't organize your life around them, they organize your life against you. Jung studied alchemy, Gnosticism, Eastern philosophy, not as hobbies, as psychological science. He found the same pattern everywhere, the same warning, that transformation requires sacrifice, that to become whole, you must die to who you were. He called it the process of individuation, becoming your true self, but not in the modern sense, not being authentic, not following your passion. Jung meant something darker, integrating the shadow, confronting the archetypes, dying to the ego. And he warned, most people will never do this, because it's terrifying. The sixth rule, understand that organization isn't just practical, it's spiritual. You're not just managing time, you're managing soul forces. Jung identified a specific trap, one that catches almost everyone. He called it the persona, the mask you wear, the role you play, the version of yourself you present to the world. Employee, parent, friend, leader, whatever. And here's the trap. The more organized you are, the more perfect your persona becomes, the more you master the role. Until one day, you realize you've forgotten who you are underneath. Jung wrote, the persona is a compromise between the individual and society, about what a person should appear to be. Should appear, not what they are, what they should appear. And the more you invest in the persona, the more you lose contact with the self. Jung saw this as the primary cause of midlife crisis, not aging, not regret, but the sudden realization that you've been living someone else's life, that the organization you're so proud of is a prison. The seventh rule, organize your external life, but never let it consume your internal life. Never become the mask. Jung discovered something about silence that most people miss. He found that silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's a presence. A presence of what? Of the self, the true self, the one beneath the ego, beneath the persona, beneath the noise. And this self has wisdom. It knows things the conscious mind doesn't. It sees patterns. It senses danger. It guides. But it only speaks in silence. Jung called it the voice of the unconscious, but patients described it differently, as intuition, as gut feeling, as inner knowing. And Jung found, the people who succeed at life aren't the smartest, aren't the hardest working. They're the ones who listen to this voice. The eighth rule, create daily silence, not meditation, not relaxation, pure silence, where the self can speak. 5 minutes, no phone, no music, no thoughts, just being. And listen, not for words, for feelings, for impulses, for the quiet knowing that emerges when you stop trying. But Jung warned about something. He said silence can be dangerous if you're not ready. Because in silence, everything emerges. Not just wisdom, not just peace, but the shadow, the repressed, the denied, the rage you've been swallowing, the shame you've been hiding, the desires you've been suppressing. Jung wrote, in the silence you will meet yourself, and it will be uncomfortable. Most people quit here. They try silence once, the discomfort rises, and they run back to noise. But Jung insisted, this is the work. The discomfort is the signal that you're getting close. The ninth rule, don't run from the discomfort of silence. Sit with it. It's not a problem, it's a portal. Now we come to the final rule, the one Jung considered most important and most ignored. Jung discovered that all psychological organization ultimately serves one purpose. Not productivity, not success, not happiness, integration. Jung believed the goal of life is to become whole, to integrate all parts of yourself, light and dark, conscious and unconscious, ego and shadow. He called it the self, not the ego, the self, the totality. And he found, you can organize your external life perfectly, perfect schedule, perfect habits, perfect image. But if you're not integrating the shadow, you're building on sand. Because the shadow doesn't disappear. It doesn't die. It waits. And one day, it erupts. In addiction, in affairs, in sudden, inexplicable destruction. Jung wrote, "Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is." Think about the people who seem perfect, who have it all together, who never slip. Then one day, they implode. Scandal, breakdown, collapse. Jung would say, that's the shadow, finally taking its due. The 10th rule, the ultimate organization, is integration. Bring the shadow into the light. Make room for all of you. How? Jung said, acknowledge what you've been denying. The anger, the envy, the selfishness, the darkness. Not to act on it, but to see it, to own it, to integrate it. Because here's what Jung discovered. The shadow isn't your enemy, it's your power. The parts you've repressed contain the energy you need, the fierceness, the boundaries, the raw life force. When you integrate the shadow, you don't become evil, you become real. And real people don't need perfect organization. They need authentic organization. Organization that serves the whole self, not the persona, the self. Let's put it all together. Jung spent decades exploring the psyche, mapping its territories, identifying its dangers. And he came to one conclusion, one principle that underlies all psychological health, that silence is where power lives. Not in activity, not in achievement, not in recognition. In silence, in the space between thoughts, in the darkness where the self waits. When you organize your life around silence, everything changes. You stop chasing, you start listening, you stop performing, you start becoming. You stop leaking energy and start accumulating it. You stop living from the outside in and start living from the inside out. Jung wrote in his final years, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But he added something most people forget. He said, and that requires silence, because in the noise, you can only become what others want you to be. Look at your life right now. How much silence do you have? Real silence. Not sleep, not rest. Silence. Time where nothing is demanded, where no one is watching, where you can hear yourself. If the answer is none, Jung would say, you're not living your life. You're living a reaction to expectations, to fears, to the voices of others. And one day, you'll wake up and wonder where you went. So what does this mean for you? It means Jung is asking you to do something radical, something most people will never do. Stop organizing outward, start organizing inward. Create silence, guard your energy, face your shadow. Not someday, now. Because the longer you wait, the louder the unconscious becomes. Until one day, it's not whispering anymore, it's screaming. And then, the breakdown isn't optional, it's inevitable. Jung believed there was still time to choose, integration or fragmentation. The question is, which are you choosing? Jung saw something most refuse to see, not because it's complicated, but because it's uncomfortable. That beneath the surface of your organized life, there's chaos, waiting. And you can keep pushing it down, keep drowning it in noise, keep pretending it's not there. Or you can do what Jung did, descend, deliberately, into the silence, and face what's been waiting. Most people won't. They'll keep organizing externally until the internal breaks through. But you're still here, so maybe you're different. If this opened your eyes to something hidden, hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Because here at the Hidden Codex, we don't stop at the surface. We go deeper, into the shadows, into the silence, into the truth they tried to bury. Next time, we'll explore what Nietzsche discovered about power and why it terrified him. You don't want to miss that. Until then, stay awake.